I'm not sure if
Hey,
I should
Dewey.
start today. Hey, how you doing, Lisa?
Oh, yeah. You start because the fact that you're even sitting here is just mind blowing to me. And for those who don't follow you on social media, they might not know what's been going on in your life, but quite a bit since our
Yep,
last chat.
yep. It's been an interesting time since last Wednesday. I guess shortly after that, I started feeling a little bit uncomfortable, and fortunately, nothing that happened with me is COVID-19 related. But I did on Saturday suffer a massive coronary, LAD, left anterior descending artery, full 100% blockage, what they call a widowmaker heart attack. Um, Almost didn't make it. I guess I was very short time away. There, when the doctor came out and spoke to the other people in my world who were there, they said, there's essentially two possible outcomes. One is death, the other is a stroke. And so the chances of you ever seeing him like you see him now are pretty much, slim and none. But here I am, right? So that was Saturday. This is Wednesday. We're here, and I'm here, and thank goodness, thank the Lord, thank the doctors, thank the healthcare, thank all of you who experienced, physical distancing. Because of you, there was beds available in the ICU for me to be in when this all happened. It wasn't overly crowded, and they got me in, and it was no big deal. So, yeah, yeah, pretty
No
eventful
big
week.
deal, he
Yeah.
says. No big deal, he says. Meanwhile, you're like scaring the bejesus out of all of us in your circle who know and care about you. And I'm blown away to see you looking the way you look today. You look amazing. I mean, you had a stent put in. You came home Monday, yesterday. I've lost track of time.
Day before yesterday, yeah, Monday.
So
So
Monday, yeah. So I mean, you suffer a massive heart attack on Saturday, have a stent put in, and Monday you're back at home. And Wednesday, you look like you looked last week. I mean, it's
uh,
unbelievable.
I'm not sure I ever changed because I'm not sure I ever knew the significance of what was going on. While I certainly knew that I had chest pain
Sure.
at a level that was crazy off the charts. If they were asking me, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the worst pain you've ever had, what is this? My phrase on it was probably, I think I was saying 9, 9 plus. I didn't say 10 because my memory's going. I'm getting old, so I probably had something that hurt, a lot, falling out of a tree or falling off a bike or something. Um, but I didn't realize it was as significant as it was. Obviously, if you know me on social media, you'll know I kind of took a picture of myself in the emergency care facility and
Yeah.
said, I'm checking widowmaker heart attack off my bucket list, and I didn't know. I was just, I guess, self preservation reflexes says
Yeah.
make light of it. Don't be that person that's, oh no, I'm gonna die. And which I think is important. When people came in, the one person they let come in to talk to me, was I didn't realize what she had been told, but came in very much saying, I will see you again. And I didn't recognize the tone and voice, but now that I know what was said to her prior to coming in to see me, there had been real doubt as to whether she was going to see me again. Um,
Yeah.
Again, I look at it, I get great care. I went into an emergency care facility where I managed to, I'm lucky, right? All things, luck plays out. I knew the person who owns the facility, owns several of them, and I talked to him on the phone prior to going, and he let them know I was coming in. So they immediately, without paperwork or anything, gave me an EKG and said, yep, you're having a heart attack. They gave me what eventually ended up being a couple of nitro pills and a baby aspirin to do what they could as I was sitting there. They immediately, because they didn't have admitting privileges to a hospital, they immediately got me to a hospital. So the fire department showed up and hooked me up and got me there. They gave me nitro sprays the whole way there that I didn't realize what that spray was at the time. And so they kept me going. I got to the hospital. they pretty much immediately took me into the cath lab and, stuck up through my groin, stuck in a little roto-rooter with a balloon to open it up, and then stuck in a stent. I think it was a much better outcome than what they thought. They were saying that they were taking me in for what was
Yeah.
probably emergency bypass.
Right.
But in which case I
Yeah.
would still
The
be
fact
at
that
bypass. I'd still be
yeah.
there right now. Right.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the fact that the stent worked is a miracle. I mean, given the amount of blockage you had. So,
At least for
you're
three
living
days.
right some kind of way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At
Well,
least it's worked for three
stop.
days. Uh,
Okay, stop. Don't even say that. Holy cow. Well, let's bring this around to a tennis conversation because the last time you and I talked, you were plotting your return to the courts and talking about how you were going to get back out and start teaching and what that was going to look like. And the fact that Austin Tennis Academy was trying to figure out what it was going to look like as it reopened to everybody.
mhm.
And so now we're a week later. I know there are a lot of people back out on the courts, a lot of coaches working with kids in all kinds of different capacities. But interestingly, I have yet to find a parent willing to talk to me about what led them to make the decision that it was okay for their kid to be back out on the court. And I'm still hoping to get somebody to talk to me about that. I had actually the opposite situation happen yesterday where a parent contacted me and said, we never stopped. My kid's been playing this whole time. We didn't have a shelter in place order where we lived. However, all our courts were closed. The nets were taken off the courts, but we found a private court and our kid's been hitting with his coach and his buddies this whole time. So I don't know, adrenaline started pumping, and I had to work very hard to have a civil back and forth exchange via email with this parent. And, what I finally realized is my fear and my anxiety over all this is mine. There are people out there that feel very differently than I do, obviously. I've been very clear about the fact that I'm not ready to go back on the court, but I am maybe starting to be in the minority on this. I have a lot of friends who are back out on the court. I'm seeing it on social media, people posting pictures and talking about how they went out and played. And my mixed doubles group played on Sunday, 32 people out there playing. Doubles certainly is off the table for me for a long time, but, I'm not even ready for singles. So
Is that
in the midst of
physically or
all,
emotionally?
emotionally, totally emotional. It's all I physically, I'm great. I've been working out. I've been doing yoga. I've been walking. I've been doing everything to stay fit physically, but emotionally, nah, I'm not going out there. And what are you hearing? I mean, you got derailed a little bit, the
Yeah.
massive plot
So
twist.
we can be honest, as I hope to always be.
Please.
I was
Yeah.
surprised as things have opened up by the number of people who have come clean about the fact that they really didn't ever stop. They had to work a little bit harder to find places to be able to do things, but they really just kept going. And at least in the United States, as I talk to my friends in other countries, they
Yeah.
really have been shut down. I talked to a friend in Canada yesterday who was headed to his club to clean up because it looks like they're going to be able to start doing some private lesson type things. In some other countries, you didn't have the chance to go sneak out if you left your house. The PC police were right there, and
Yeah.
literally police were right there, and they sent you back to your door. So there was not that option didn't exist. But here in the U.S., while a few people bragged, and I want to say bragged about being able to go out, I think there was a much larger percentage who found ways to get out and hit balls and keep going. At this moment in time, I struggle to a degree to understand how a kid hitting a tennis ball was more important than some of the other things. But I
Right.
do also understand how someone needing to earn a living and be able to pay their bills, provide for their family was super important, particularly if you felt like you might lose everything. If it's a matter of, you got to make sure you pay for this vacation you had planned or things like that, well, then you probably should have shut it down. But if it was
Hmm.
going to totally derail you, I can see where the pressure is. You might have made that choice of, I'm willing to take the risk because of whatever. I know that I'm going to be careful. I believe that my clients are going to be careful. And even if they're not, we're not going to be touching the same things. I can do this in a safe way. Because we're still at a place where, kids and adults are not touching the balls commingling.
Right.
Um, it's
Right.
I guess what I'm hearing more is it's we're continuing to go back to a place where we were a week or 2 weeks before all of these shelter in place, stay at home type orders are in place. Um, I guess I'll let a little bit of cat. So we have a staff meeting, an online staff meeting planned for the end of this week at Austin Tennis Academy that I'm participating in more as a facilitator than anyone. But it's going to
Hmm.
be talking about what this week has looked like and what adjustments need to be made or can be made, right? So there's both of those. So we need to
Yeah.
close it down a little bit more, or were we possibly too conservative and we're finding that there's an opportunity to be less conservative? But there
Hmm.
will be a significant discussion and review of what the week has looked like and making adjustments for the coming week.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's great. And I think, the management at Austin Tennis Academy has obviously been very proactive and very thoughtful in the way it's handled this whole thing. My concern is that's not what's happening everywhere. And people are back out, especially the people that, snuck and played during the shelter at home order. I mean, those are the people that
So
concern me,
can I
right?
ask you, Lisa, that do you believe that because you made your opinions so well known, and I believe rightfully so, that people are fearful of having that discussion with you for fear that there's already been a prejudgment um, and something attached to them, so they don't want to be put in
Could
that
be.
position?
Could be, and more than just me making my opinions known. I mean, what this parent who emailed me yesterday said is, I'll share my story, but you have to keep it anonymous. You can't say my name. You can't say where I'm from because I'm concerned with getting lambasted on social media. And so it wasn't just me this parent was concerned about. It was, the social media uh, climate that is so quick to attack and judge. And listen, I feel like I've been very transparent about my feelings.
Hmm.
If you were sneaking out and playing when we were under shelter at home orders, I think you were wrong, and I'm angry with you for doing that because so many of us made the choice to honor the order and stay home for the greater good. And exactly, and so that when our loved ones suffer a massive heart attack, they can find a bed in the emergency room and the beds aren't all taken with COVID-19 patients, right? So as you said at the beginning of the show, Dewey, I mean, the fact that you were able to be in a hospital receiving care is a direct result of the fact that people were staying home, that the infections that required hospitalizations had gone down enough so that there was available bed, staff, resources to take care of you and have you be sitting here today.
Yep. I would add life saving to that receiving care. I definitely
Oh, for
received
sure.
life saving care. Um, so what's it going to look like going forward? Do you believe everybody's so focused now on getting back to their life that they are not being as observant to what data is showing in terms of that curve continuing to flatten, to move down, to move up? Because what I saw a little bit, and I'm really staying away from the news. I was a news junkie, and one of my new things is I'm going to check in on it once or twice a day and not really be as obsessed with it as I was. But what I've seen is that New York City, because of everything it did, it's actually on the decline, but the rest of the country as a whole, so there, obviously spots one way or the other, but is on an upward trend. And, everybody opened up a week ago, maybe, or the earliest opened up a week ago, a little more than a week ago, and more are continuing to open, so we won't see those numbers for another week at the
Week and a
earliest in
half.
14 days,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
you think people are paying attention to those numbers, and will it impact things to where people start closing back down?
So I posted something on my personal Facebook page a few days ago saying, something to the effect of, how American that we're bored with COVID-19 and the shelter at home. So we've just decided it's not a problem anymore, right? This is just typical of our short attention span in this country. And yes, the media has a lot to do with that short attention span, the whole idea of the news cycle. And, we can talk about a story for a day or two or three, and then it's time to move on to the next big thing. I don't know what's going to happen. I saw something this morning that in Georgia, they're seeing some hot spots emerge. Georgia lifted its shelter at home order and started opening businesses on April 24th and opened, weird choices of businesses, nail salons, tattoo parlors. I mean, weird choices. And I know people who are going to those places and are, I mean, to me, the fact that the biggest concern somebody has is getting their hair cut or getting their nails done is just mind blowing. And it's the same thing with the tennis. We have no competition for our junior players. We have no competition for our college players. We're starting to have competition for our professional players. And actually, I'm interviewing Ruben Herrera after this show on our Facebook page about a competition that he's organized in Germany. And they had the first installment this past weekend, and they're going to be doing weekly tournaments, professional events. So it'll be interesting to talk to him about how that went down.
I think I
But
saw one of those with Dustin Brown. They're playing in an indoor
yes,
facility on clay. Yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah,
saw one
yeah,
of those last week.
yeah. So it begs the question for the kids, if there's no tournaments and if we're still under a shelter at home wherever we are, why do you need to be out on a tennis court? Why can't you use this time to do all the things that you and I, Dewey, have been talking about for the past several weeks to to take advantage of the opportunity to work on things that you may not have had time to work on when you were training 24/7? And I just don't understand that mindset. And I think that's my issue is nobody has said to me yet why it's so important for their kid to be out on a court with another person hitting tennis balls. I Nobody's given me a good argument yet. So for me, it's let's utilize this time. Let's work on mental toughness. Let's work on our fitness, our strength, our flexibility. Let's work on understanding tactics and strategies. And so that once the world is healthy again, or as healthy as our world can be, then we get back out and we're stronger and better than ever. But to say that we got to be out hitting tennis balls right now just makes no sense.
I agree. I look at where my initial involvement with tennis came, or as a tennis coach, was 3 decades ago, and it was largely about working with young people and helping them figure out how to be good at something, and all of the ancillary benefits of understanding time management and task prioritization and all of those types of things, sacrifice.
Mhm.
I think we missed an opportunity, or many people missed an opportunity just now to teach those things. This was all about I've got to get better as a tennis player at all costs. And I think we did a disservice, or many did a disservice to the reason I'm involved in tennis. And to me, that's disappointing. But it's also just the reason that I'm involved in tennis, right? So I'm all out there now. I'm libertarian, and people do things for different reasons. And I know every coach doesn't do it for the same reasons that I do it. And I know that as I've examined tennis in my world over these last few days, I have not quite as much interest in tennis in general, and a heightened interest in using the sport because of all the great things that I think you can learn to help young people understand all of these great lessons. So
So what
I know that.
lesson,
Yep, please.
sorry, what lesson are they learning when their parent or their coach is saying, doesn't matter what the medical and science experts say we should be doing, getting out on the tennis court for you is more important than the greater good, right?
And
That's what concerns me.
isn't that going to be probably the hardest lesson for you and I to learn, because I just put my opinion out, your opinion has been out. It's obvious that you're struggling
Yeah,
to find people who are in the other side to have honest conversations with. And isn't that how we learn, right? So if we can't
sure.
have those honest conversations with people who think differently than we do, then we don't ever understand their point of view. And so we're stuck in our silo with our point of view and having discussions with people who believe like we believe, which only further enforces our own opinion in our own mind. And
Right.
we struggle. And I suspect I'm in very much the same place. Not talking to those people, I was very surprised by the number of people who were continuing to find ways to continue to play tennis, coach tennis, learn tennis. Um, so I suspect it won't be until such time as I'm able to have those conversations with people in a setting where they don't feel threatened. And I suspect, talking to you in an online interview or being a guest of ours here on this platform would be intimidating. They would feel like they're being ganged up on, they're being judged. But I really would like to understand why people felt it was so important, because there very well may be things that my mind doesn't go towards, which, if enlightened, might make me say, oh, wow, I wish if I thought of it like that, maybe I would have done things a little bit differently. But at the moment, I don't know.
Right. Right. And I think that, there are some things that have been said, like, kids have been shown to be at lower risk from either becoming ill at all, infected at all, or if they do get infected, they don't get very sick from COVID-19. There have been, many, many fewer cases of teens and young adults being deathly ill from COVID-19. I get that. But the flip side of that is, if your child becomes infected and is then carrying the virus and is then contagious to everyone that he or she comes in contact with, isn't there a personal responsibility there? And the parent that had emailed me, I asked if any of the kids that had been playing together had been tested. And the parent said, I don't understand why that makes any difference. you know? And for me, the difference is, if they had been tested and tested negative, and they all chose to be together because they all tested negative, then I understand that decision a little bit. But if they haven't been tested and they don't know if they're carrying the virus, and they don't know if they can go home and then infect their parents or grandparents, or they go to the grocery store, or they go wherever they go and can infect people, then I have a real problem with that.
It's hard. So just so everybody knows, I just coughed I suspect I do not have COVID-19. They did not give me a test when I was in the hospital, so I
I
was
was going
not
to
in
ask you
a,
that.
yeah, so I didn't get tested. My temperature, I think the highest my temperature ever was 98.2. It generally stayed at 97 point something. So that normal 98.6 is not something that my temperature generally reaches ever. So I think they felt pretty secure in the fact that I was there for another major issue and I didn't
Yeah.
have a cough. So and no temperature. So this ongoing, I do have a cough, but no temperature. And so
But
this
you've had
cough,
that
which has
cough
been
for
on
months.
every single show we've had, this is show 14,
Yeah.
right? Oh, didn't I say
Yeah.
something last week about that was lucky show 13,
Yeah.
or because of our issues
Yeah.
we had, and then later that day, the onset of series of heart
Yeah, it was
attacks.
just the
So
start of the shit show, right?
it
It
really,
was just, yeah, last week was the beginning. So,
it was. But so I don't have it. But it was interesting that I was in one of those settings where ICU was broken up into two units. So half, or maybe it wasn't half the floor, but a percentage of the floor, which as I got to get up and start walking, I could see was pretty sealed off. There was no getting in there because that's where the cooties were. So I walked by the cooties. They were right there.
good.
But they didn't feel the need to test me and gave me care. Interestingly enough, on the ICU floor, my nurse, who was a male, started out with double mask, and by the time that second day when I was getting moved up to a regular floor came, he was in there just chatting with me. I didn't even realize that like he had full beard and stuff because he was all wrapped up before, and then he
Oh, he
was
didn't
just
even
in
have a
there,
mask at all?
and we were chatting. So I think he felt secure in dealing with me at that point in time.
I assume that means he had been tested and had tested negative so that he wouldn't risk giving you COVID-19.
Yeah, and if I were my normal self and thinking, I might have done all these little videos and questioning, querying him on
Yeah.
things, and I did it just asking some questions, but you know wasn't fully in my right mind, even though I am left-handed. Um,
Me too. That's why we like each other so much.
it must be. So I don't know.
All
We've
right.
been we've been
Well,
talking. Thanks for the conversation, Lisa.
yeah, you too. Thanks for being here. I mean,
Yeah.
really, in that big way, thanks for being here. And thank you to your wife for having um, the whatever it takes to get you to do something that you don't want to do. I'm happy she has
Well,
that
I'm glad that
in
y'all
her.
communicated and that you were kept informed and that you were also part of the support system when, you know,
Wow.
I thought about it today and trying to send messages to my family with what's going on with me physically and emotionally. And one of the things as I was reflecting this morning was I was sort of like a COVID-19 patient in that I walked into a hospital, had to be by myself, and people weren't allowed to come in and visit me. And how
Hmm.
strange that is. But I had, who knows, hundreds of people commenting on Facebook posts and people sending me personal messages through whatever means there was. My phone rang several times. Over this period of time, I've talked to people I probably haven't talked to in 20 years, who were very, very important to me 30 years or more ago. Um, but then there were my kids. My oldest daughter got in her car and drove from Dallas down here. She and her fiance stayed in a hotel for 2 days in hopes of being able to get a glimpse of me. Couldn't, and finally went back. Certainly, what Kim went through of just not knowing and having been told by the surgeon what he said to her, um,
Hmm.
it's just weird. It's a weird
So,
existence, and having a hard time coming to grips with how all of that is playing out, but certainly more empathy for anyone who's hospitalized with COVID-19 or hospitalized for any reason at this point in time. Um,
and the flip
not
side is you weren't by yourself. I mean, you weren't. Not only were you by yourself, but your wife had to stay outside and couldn't be by your side. And to me, that's been my scariest thing about this is if I or somebody I love has to be in the hospital right now, they're going to be alone and I'm going to be alone.
For anything.
And
Right. Not for COVID-19.
right,
If you have to be in the hospital for
right,
anything.
right. That's my biggest fear right now. And so the people that are willing to take that risk, it's just outside what I'm able to comprehend. I don't understand it. That's just me. So anyway, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're on the mend. You look fabulous, and keep taking care of yourself. Listen to your doctors. And as I texted you, be nice to your wife. She deserves that. And I know you are. I'm just kidding, kind of, but
Kind of.
be nice to your wife. And
Thank you
I
for
will see
being
you
part of the
next
support.
week.
Yeah,
I will
I'm
see you
planning
next week.
planning on being here again. Same time, same bat
Good.
time, same bat channel is out. I think when it
Yeah,
was when I was
that's
a kid.
it. Yep.
Thanks.
Yeah.
We'll see y'all then.
Thanks. All right.